in a moment, we'll serve communion. In the meantime, who has a question about the sermon here this morning? Yeah, Conrad.
What constitutes worthiness to open the scroll thing? So what about the lamb and makes it worthy and nobody else?
Yeah. To me, the question is what makes the lion or the lamb worthy to open? Why not? And to me, the word there has prevailed there to open it. So the question is, what did he do to prevail? And to me, the answer it seems like to me the answer is he did his Father's will perfectly. I don't really see any other possibilities there. Everyone else has been imperfect in doing their Father's will. If the thinking briefly on this, why did Jacob trust Joseph so much and didn't trust perhaps the brothers? He really had confidence that Joseph was going to do what he wanted him to do. In other words, we only give information to people that'll be responsible with it, if you will. And there's nobody responsible that there's nobody that you can trust with this responsibility to do what the scroll says, other than the person who can carry it out perfectly. So it seems to me that is what we're looking at there, because of what had to be done. I mean, the judgment that's going to come out of those scrolls, you're really going to want the right person in charge of that, because the judgment is it's just horrible. I mean, we see it as horrible. It was grace, as we've mentioned, to the people that were being protected. But even, we say things like, "Well, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy." Well, there's stuff happening to your worst enemy that's beyond what we've ever thought of, it seems to me. Here. Good question. Yeah, John.
Ezekiel's vision
Yes.
of a temple. Was the temple standing
At that point.
at that point? Was it, this is future vision, past vision?
There were a couple of different destructions. I think what's happening here in Ezekiel 8, there were a couple of different carrying away. The temple wasn't destroyed until Nebuchadnezzar just had enough the second time and just destroyed everything. Because prior to that, it was still standing. So I believe it was in between those two times. There were a couple of carryings away. The first time, of course, Nebuchadnezzar says, "You guys just pay me a bunch of money, and you can still be king, and I'll leave you alone. Just pay me." Right. Yeah. Well, then he comes back and he drags out Jehoiachin, and he sets up Zedekiah and destroys the temple at that point. So I think this was in between that time. Yes.
So the seven horns and the seven eyes.
Yeah.
In your study of that, we often say seven is a figurative term for completeness.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we get that?
Late, I was studying this week, and I actually was thinking about doing this, and I decided not to. At some point, I have to do it. But Revelation itself is a book of sevens. Sevens just keep on showing up and up and up in that book. So I actually think we get it mostly from this book itself. And the reason why I say that is, when we say completeness, it's interesting that Christ reveals himself as the beginning and the end. Now, that's a statement of completeness, for sure. Beginning and end, you can't really get more complete than that, it seems to me. And in that book, where we have Christ revealing himself as the beginning and the end, is the book of sevens just all over the place. So I think that is, if you're asking where we get it from, that is the place where I get it from, at least. How Christ reveals himself and the prominent number within that. I'm not a numerologist. There are some folks that make a whole lot out of numbers. For example, I'll give you a quick example. There are some commentators, and I don't know if you caught it or not, but there were 25 elders of Israel who were worshiping false gods. There are 24 elders in the book of Revelation that worship Christ. Some people make a comparison out of that. I just can't quite do it, but I can't believe the numbers are just random either. You know, Ezekiel doesn't say, well, there are a bunch of elders sitting around. He says there are 25. John doesn't say, well, there's, look, a bunch of elders, 20 or so, or 30, I don't know. The numbers are there. I will freely admit that when it comes to these numbers in the Bible, I think I understand somewhat, but there's a lot I frankly don't understand.
That numbers guy, that made a big deal out of numbers, and 2 or 3 sermons ago. Do you remember?
I don't remember. You all were listening, right? So you would be able to tell me. I do know that Harold Camping, if we can throw that poor man's name out, he made an issue of how many fish were caught. Because in one of the Gospels, when they threw their net over, they counted the fish, and that was a real significant thing, and it told him when Christ would return, and that was part of his calculations of the rapture. So like I say, there's some people do a lot with numbers that I can't quite do. I don't know if that was the guy or not that I mentioned. Poor guy, he's such a target. It's like piling on, you know. How can you be wrong about the rapture twice? The amazing thing, you're wrong the first time, and they believed you the second time. Whatever. And interestingly enough, when I was doing a presentation here recently, I did hear, I think you all should know this, I did hear a new number for the rapture, 2032. So I heard that recently during the Q&A session of a talk I gave recently. So mark your calendar. I know these electronic calendars, you can go way ahead. It's not like the old paper kind. You only have 1 year. Go forward to 2032 and make sure you have your life right, I suppose. Wow, I can't believe we're still doing this. I can't believe it. Who else? Okay, I'm going to ask John and Seth to come forward.